vision or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Michelle, and for the next hour I will be reading from the March 1st issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Cover story: Thriving in Chaos. Behind the scenes at Oliver's, where everything matters and nothing gets missed. Pastry chef Amanda Turnamba is the first to arrive. It's 0 degrees, snowing, and the sun barely awake bathes the outside of the restaurant in pearly dispersed light. Turnamba is wearing snow pants for the brief walk from her car to the restaurant because the cold air makes her break out in hives. In other news, she owns 5 tarantulas. Though the restaurant, Oliver's, won't open until 5, its first worker, Turnamba, unlocks the door to start her shift at 7:30. And the last worker, General Manager Mike Too Tall Cianaccio, won't turn the key to close until past 1 a.m. The nearly 18 hours in between are packed. Multitasking is the mood. The same frugality applied to ingredients within each dish, repurposed that's left, used at every last drop, is applied to in seconds within each minute. I don't know if I could ever not be in the restaurant industry, Turnamba said. I thrive in the chaos. Turnamba works in the basement pastry kitchen. The drop ceilings are low, too low for Too Tall, who sometimes stands in an area missing a ceiling panel. Turnamba will stay there for the next 12 hours, working on a to-do list that in length resembles the bucket list of someone who just learned they have 3 months to live. Donna Jacoby, Turnamba's pastry assistant, she says she likes working at Oliver's for the people. The chatting, the memes, she relishes sending her much younger colleagues outside of work. The restaurant business, Jacoby said, doesn't see age. When you ask any of the Oliver's employees why they enjoy their work, they almost all say, the people. This is not a high turnover spot. Oliver's is one of the city's oldest and only fine dining restaurants. Its employees are polished on the surface and unpolished behind the scenes. Some always serious and yet always joking around. They don't work like people who are working for someone else. They work like they own the place. This is an art form. Most of them have been working together for at least 5 years, but often 10 or more. Owner David Shug lets us basically do whatever we want, said Executive Chef Chris Keller. He has a lot of trust in us that we can do our jobs correctly and do it well. Some went to school for this, some, like server Fred Renard, dreamed of their whole lives. Renard was 8 years old when he started a mock cafe at home, making menus, taking orders, cooking for his family. They say they're like a family. That can sound cliche to people who haven't worked on a shared project with the same electric group for years. Institutions pass down a potent culture. Tedious small talk, a hallmark of corporate life, isn't really a thing. Everyone is either too busy or too easily bored. Ribbing and gossip are the much richer conversational fodder that make restaurant work fun. I'm always locked in. Cianco sits in his narrow office. It's 12:30 p.m. He's assigning the servers and back servers to their tables. This requires a lot of clicking, and he compares it to Tetris. Everything is calculated, and everything matters to Cianco on his nightly quest to meet the guests' expectations for the restaurant, which he believes that are expensive and mysterious. The mystery may come in part from the restaurant's dark exterior and curious location among gas stations and a used car dealership. When I was a kid, truthfully, I always thought it was a strip club, Renard said. Cianco carries the emotional and mental load of the restaurant. He knows every single staff member's strength and weakness, whether they even know. He knows which customers are generous tippers. If one couple, he says, they pretty much tip 100% of the bill every single time. Or big spenders, but he said, that's not what I'm interested in. He knows if you're a blogger or in the industry or if it's your birthday, and then they'll place a custom birthday card on your table. He instructs servers on when to accelerate or stall their guests. He tells bartenders to encourage or discourage another round of drinks. All of this is to control the flow of orders in the kitchen and avoid overwhelming the chefs or making the guests wait too long. I can sense what's going on in that kitchen before walking back there based on how or what I've done. Ciaccio started at Oliver's 12 years and 4 months ago as a food runner. Then served lunch, then dinner, then tended bar, then became floor manager, then assistant manager, until he became general manager at 28 years old. Most of the leadership at Oliver's, the chefs, the owner, studied culinary arts, but Ciaccio is self-taught. He studied Oliver's. The idea that people may overlook Oliver's while everyone flocks to the new spot is personally distressing to Ciaccio. You can't fall behind. I mean, there's a new restaurant opening every day. We have to always be consistent and to always be here for people and remind them. We just get forgotten about around a lot. We're not new and shiny. Oliver's turns 90 this year. When Schultz bought Oliver's in 2013, he wanted evolution, not revolution. It had a baked-in older clientele, which has been dying off. It's like losing an uncle, Renard said. It takes longer and it's harder, and it's more enduring. It's a delicate balance. Yes, chef. By 6:30, the noise in the kitchen is so loud, between the sizzling meats, chopping knives, and clanging stainless steel pans in the dish pit, that everyone must shout. Navigating the tight kitchen is like trying to bypass a bear in the woods. Stay loud, focused, and in your lane, and everything should be fine. The classical music of the morning morphs into free jazz. Unwinding. As dinner service wanes, the staff shares a runner's high. Hong is hunched over a glass of red wine at the bar. Keller drinks a post-shift Molson and says this evening was very smooth. Everyone is relaxed and off now except for Ciaccio. Ciacco's still locked in. His evening is not over because I'm still there. Were there any surprises, I asked? The false alarm with the scampi was about it, Sterl said, grinning. The never-ordered scampi was good practice. The restaurant unloads its workers one by one. Hong goes home with his family. He would like to work at Oliver's for the rest of his life, but he's studying to become a barber so he can spend more time with his kids. I'll probably keep my weekends here. Only Ciaccio, a handful of young back servers, a bartender, and a couple of dishwashers are left. The dishwashers are still working, but the rest of them are off duty and gossiping. She said, he said, is she divorced? No, is she wearing a ring? They take a round of chartreuse shots. They like being there when Ciaccio's there, so they'll leave when he leaves. My availability is Mike's availability, back server Lauren Camisi said. Ciaccio locks the door of the restaurant at 1:13. It's still snowing. The back servers try to convince Ciaccio to go with them to dive bar. Ciaccio, who has been working for the last 13 hours, does not want to go. The only way he would go is for Oliver's sake. I'm not going. But if they go, Ciaccio's waving away. If the story continues, then. Movies. Timothy Supreme. By Bruce Miller. There's a reason Timothy Chalamet is seen as a frontrunner for the Best Actor Oscar commitment. Marty Supreme director Josh Safdie says the 30-year-old has the qualities that make a top-ranked table tennis player. I saw an urgency and a desire to be a supreme version of himself, Safdie said. An incredible table tennis player has a hyper-focused, hyper-precision, and that was something that was inside his DNA. When Sadie and Ronald Bronstein were writing the screenplay for Marty Supreme, They envisioned a character who was driven, no matter what the risk. And when you're casting, you want to take the essence of the character and the essence of the person you're casting and hope they align. Calumet delivered on all counts. He learned the finer points of table tennis, dissected his character's backstory, then peppered Safdie with questions. Sometimes you don't know the answer to, the director admits, so then you lead the student to do more research, which then informs the character. By the time you're showing up on set, he has psychologically prepared himself so that if he's going to improvise a moment, he understands who that person is. Calumet's character, Marty Mauser, is a driven New Yorker in the 1950s, hoping to become a world tennis champion, table tennis champion. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the financial means to make it happen, so he does whatever he can to raise the funds. The film, as a result, embraces the chaos that surrounds Marty. In some cases, as many as 40 extras would interact with Calumet. It creates an instability that lines up with Timmy's energy and certainly with the uncertainty of a scene like a hustling sequence, Safdie says. Marty's never really in off mode, but there are scenes where the energy does come down. When shooting stops, Calumet doesn't stay in character, but he stays in spirit throughout the whole film. He's very serious on set and kind of abhors stillness and people who do not take the craft seriously. I don't direct him, I'm just there to help, catch new ideas that come up on the set. I was completely blown away by how serious he takes his craft and his ability to just black out all the white noise attendant to a public life. I probably did 15 read-throughs with him, and he could bring new questions to each scene that always informed and made that scene deeper. I know we're in a subjective business, but the truth is I'm really in pursuit of greatness, he told the audience after winning the Best Actor prize for A Complete Unknown. I know people don't usually talk about like that, but I want to be one of the greats. I'm inspired by the greats. I want to be up there. Marty Supreme, Safdie says, could be another step in that direction. Movies. Scream 7 is part of a franchise that's already dead by Mark Kennedy. Early in Scream 7, one of those blasts of the franchise signature self-mocking irony, Neve Campbell is taunted for sitting out Scream 6. It's not the same without you, she is told. It's true. Campbell's Sidney Prescott is the plucky heart of this series, the original Scream queen, the so-called final girl who bites her lip and yet leaps into action when needed. Scream 6 tried to put defibrillator paddles on the Ghostface Killer franchise without Campbell, and it felt like a stutter step. So it's a welcome back for Sidney Prescott in this 7th edition, which is a messy mix of horror and humor that's clearly only for Scream completists, whose hardy folk who refuse logic or vivid filmmaking in their quest to see a dude in a cape and mask stab people. Sidney is now a mom to a rebellious 17-year-old daughter, a wife to the town's police officer, and a cafe owner in the very artificial suburban community of Pine Grove. She has pushed her traumatic past into a memory hole and thus has created a tension with her daughter, played by a very bratty Isabel May. Her calm life is upended when her past comes to find her. Franchise creator Kevin Williamson returns to direct and co-write the screenplay with series veteran Guy Busick, but it's all very slack, a ton of B acting joined by a plot, dialogue, and editing that produces less dread than inadvertent humor, slipping over and over in its own puddle of gore. Scream 7 mixes old and new franchise characters, adds new horrific ways to die, like being slit open while suspended over a high school theater stage, or having your skull impaled on a beer tap with a desperate search for whoever's doing the killings. It's never who you think it is, and you'll never figure this one out either. It's always someone you know. is one helpful tip. Campbell is joined by Courtney Cox, who reprises her role as Gail Weathers, an annoying TV journalist who's the only character to appear in all 7 Scream films. Even Cox has some shade to share with Sidney about missing the franchise last jaunt to New York City in Scream 6. You're lucky you sat that one out. It was brutal. Preach, sister, we watched it. Scream 7 is all about 2026, embracing a deep fake videos, trying to absorb a messy past and deal with helicopter parents. It also embraces such interesting ways to kill people as fire extinguishers to the noggin, meat mallets, and a slide across a bar into a broken shot glass shards. At one point, Sidney and her daughter make their way into a well-appointed panic room while the killer is furiously hunting them. They spend less than 5 minutes there, panting a lot, and then they, check notes, inexplicably leave the panic room. This isn't going to stop unless I stop it, Sidney says. While there are nods to other horror movies, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is playing at the local theater, and the Halloween franchise gets name-checked, Scream has always been fun for the way it deconstructs the genre while making a new one. This time, that's just flat. There's a stab, at dealing with PTSD, but choosing the Scream franchise to discuss the generational trauma is a weird vehicle to pick when there's serial killer dropping bodies every few minutes, lumbering along while fatally wounded. This is a franchise that doesn't know it is dead, staggering onward without an ending in sight. Perhaps Sidney is right. This isn't going to stop unless she stops it. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the May 1st issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. Things to do. Wimpy Kid live anime Feast, George Harrison tribute by Tony Roberto. Beware the Cheese Touch. For 20 years, author and illustrator Jeff Kinney's Diary of a Wimpy Kid books have entertained through the antics of his stick-figured adolescent characters Greg Heffley, his family, friends, and schoolmates. The books, which have been New York Times bestsellers, have led to multiple animated adventures, feature films, and even a stage production. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the musical, opening Saturday at the Theater of Youth, is a clever family musical that finds Greg dealing with his first week at middle school and all the awkwardness that comes with it. How far is he willing to go to be popular? Will he turn his back on his uncool best friend? And how can he avoid the dreaded cheese touch, that moldy piece of cheese that curses those who touch it? Joining Greg in the musical are familiar characters including Roderick Rowley, Fregley, Patty, and Joshi. Directed are Ariana Lasting and Charles McGregor. Public performances are on the weekends only through March 14th in the Allendale Theater. There's a 10-minute talkback after each performance. The 60-minute musical is recommended for ages 8 and older. All You Need Is George, an all-star celebration of George Harrison, 8 p.m. Thursday at Ashbury at Babeville, Delaware Avenue. Sabres Watch Party, 6 p.m. Thursday at the Seneca Niagara Casino, Niagara Falls. The Music of Hans Zimmer, 7 p.m. Saturday at Shea's Buffalo Theater. Niagara Anime Fest, 10 to 5 next Sunday at the Sheraton Niagara Falls Hotel, 3rd Street, Niagara Falls. Quick calendar. Zodiac Dance Company Spring Concert, 2 p.m. today, Sunday, at the University of Buffalo Center for the Arts. Bert Kreischer, 7 p.m. today, Sunday, at Shea's Buffalo Theater. National Geographic Live, Uncovering Our Concrete Jungle, with urban ecologist Chris Chanel, 7 p.m. Tuesday, Kleinhans Music Hall. Sponge, 30th anniversary of Rotting Pinata, 6 p.m. Friday, the Evening Star Concert Hall. Kebmo, 8 p.m. Saturday, Ashbury Hall, Badeville, Delaware Avenue. Dead Alliance Buffalo, a night of Bob Weir, 4 p.m. next Sunday, Electric City, Pearl Street. Just announced. Borderland Music Festival with headliners Jack White, Alabama Shakes, Lord Huron, the Pixies, and The Head and the Heart, September 18th to the 20th at the Knox Farm State Park. Ziggy Marley with Jay Boog, 7 p.m. July 11th at Art Park's Outdoor Amphitheater, Lewiston. Tommy James and the Shondells, 7:30 August 1st at the Riviera Theater, Webster Street. Tony Trishka's Earl Jam, a tribute to Earl Shrugs featuring Michael Daves, 7 p.m. March 21st, West Falls Center for the Arts, Davis Road, West Falls. OLG Stage at Fallsview Casino, Niagara Falls, Ontario. Nelly at 8 p.m. July 18th. Mike Love and the Beach Boys, 7:30 July 30 to 31st. Keith Urban, 8 p.m. August 20th. Nikki Glazier, 10:30 August 8th. And Marcela Hernandez, 7 p.m. June 14th. All tickets are through Ticketmaster. Just announced. West Hurd Riviera Theater. Shady, September 11th. Outlaw State of Mind, coming up events. Outlaw State of Mind, March 6th. The Celtic Tenors, March 16th. Sticky Sweet, March 27th. Just Like Pink, March 28th. Abraxas, tribute to Santana, April 3rd. Strange Love, April 4th. Best Friend's Girl, a tribute to the Cars, April 10th. The McCartney Experience, April 11th. Simply the Best, a tribute to Tina Turner, April 13th. John Wayne Melodies, April 25th. Love Sexy, a tribute to the music of Prince, May 8th. Rush Experience, May 15 and 16. Starry Night, Dan McLean, May 28th. Shells Like Nirvana, a tribute to Nirvana, May 29th. Like Gomes, a tribute to Luke Combs, May 30th. Television. Clocking back in. Scrubs returns with a fresh take on medicine by Bruce Miller. If you're a fan of The Pit, you'll appreciate the reboot of Scrubs. Cut from the same cloth, they humanize the world of medicine, and in the case of the latter, let you laugh with and at them, depending on the circumstances. In the new edition of Scrubs, J.D., played by Zach Braff, returns to Sacred Heart, where one of his concierge patients is admitted. He sees the old gang and realizes the kind of medicine he practices isn't as rewarding as the kind they encounter. He's given an offer in a very heartfelt way that brings him back into the fold in a teaching position. Now he's the one training another generation. The times have changed. An internet influencer is among the mix. When he tries to call her out the way Dr. Cox did, he's pulled back by an administrator played by Vanessa Bayer, who won't allow nicknames or sexist behavior. That puts a different spin on Scrubs, and in a new way for J.D. and Turk, played by Donald Faison, to trade barbs. Those interns have distinct personalities and mirror those in The Pit and some of the employees in St. Denis Medical.
Braff, who as director of the first episode brings back series hallmarks, still has a sprightly approach that Faison manages to parrot. Sarah Chalk as JD's ex-Elliot doesn't get as much screen time in the first episodes, but finds her footing eventually, making the relationship less awkward. While the sensitivity training tack is difficult to embrace, the veterans manage their way around it and get an antagonist played by Joel Kim Booster, who wants to hold the Chief of Medicine title. Booster is a super addition and a way to keep the two buddies in check. Stories hit on issues important to healthcare and let Braff go on flights of fancy that suggested his lot in life isn't as ideal as it may seem. While the janitor, played by Neil Flynn, is missed, and the Todd is now called a Todd, there are still moments that comfort, particularly in an arena that often can be unsettling. Scrubs doesn't have the same mileage as St. Denis, but its return provides the same peace of mind that a great doctor can offer. As soon as the interns are up to speed, it's likely this revival could take another turn and give the originals, including a softer Judy Reyes, opportunity to scrub in on less issues they never considered decades ago. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 1st issue of the Sunday Gusto. Television. Marshalls, not as fun as Yellowstone, but worth a look. Case Dutton was the one likable and most principled member of his immediate family in the Paramount hit series Yellowstone, from co-creators Taylor Sheridan and John Linson. So it is no surprise that Luke Grimes, who plays Case, headlines the new CBS drama Marshalls. The Yellowstone spinoff premieres at 8 tonight, Sunday, on WIVB-TV. Nor is it surprising that elements of Yellowstone have been watered down to fit broadcast standards ignored by cable shows. In the first 3 episodes available for review, the scenery is as terrific as it is in all of Sheridan's series, but there's no sex, no cursing, and very little music. To be clear, Sheridan isn't the series writer. The series is based on characters from Sheridan and Linson. The creator of Marshalls is Spencer Hudnett, whose credits include The Blacklist, Redemption. It is a new beginning in Montana for Case and his teenage son Tate, played by Breckham Merrill, who along with Gil Birmingham as a Native American leader, Chief Thomas Rainwater, are the primary survivors of Yellowstone. Case's outrageous sister Beth, played by Kelly Riley, is really missed. The absence of Case's wife, Monica, played by Kelsey Espilly, is explained early and leads to father and son getting away from it all to run a huge ranch in Montana. That isn't exactly prime turf for suspense, so Case quickly is enlisted by a Navy SEAL who served with him in Afghanistan to join an elite team of U.S. Marshals whose job is to try and keep the peace between locals and Native Americans with different ideas of how Montana should be developed or preserved. Through it all, Case must deal with history, grudges, and expectations as the one member of the powerful, conniving Dutton family who tries to find compromise and be a peacemaker and protector. Case isn't a man of many words, but he speaks in ways that belong on greeting cards. The Gospel, according to Case, includes 3 lines over 3 episodes. Quote, "A new path has some familiar bumps," unquote. Quote, "Good men sometimes have to do some bad things," unquote. You fight clean, I fight to win, unquote. Quote, I will get comfortable being uncomfortable, unquote. And, quote, Yellowstone might be gone, but there are still landmines left behind, unquote. He is joining a diverse crew of U.S. Marshals that look like the usual suspects in several popular CBS series. His war buddy and team leader Pete, played by Logan Marshall Green, is keeping a secret from him. Miles Kittle, played by Tatanka Means, is dealing with criticism and suspicion from his Native American brethren, and there are two strong, attractive women, Belle, played by Ariel Kibble, and Andrea Cruz, played by Ash Santos, who have interesting backstories. Brett Cullen, a veteran character actor, is along for the ride as Harry Guilford, the head of the Marshals, who's suspicious of Case's motives based on the history of the Dutton family. You don't need to have watched Yellowstone to understand Marshals. However, the new series does reference some of Case's relatives and suggests people don't know what happened to his father, John, played by Kevin Costner, and brother Jamie, played by Wes Bentley, even though their fates were revealed in the final season of the show. The first 3 episodes of Marshals are designed to remind viewers why everyone loved Case as he embarks on a new beginning by chasing bad guys on his horse and engaging in shootouts that you might think he would want to avoid, so Tate doesn't become an orphan. Fortunately, Case is a dead-eye shooter with incredible instincts, and the bad guys miss their targets as often as the villains in Star Wars. Case can see danger coming seconds before a bomb goes off, or a car with would-be assassins is about to take their best shots. By the 3rd time, Case's instincts saved lives in the 3rd episode. I laughed at the absurdity, but long ago stopped laughing at CBS instincts to make successful series headlined by strong, likable, principled male characters like Justin Hartley in Tracker and Donnie Wahlberg in Boston Blue. As syrupy and preposterous as it gets at times, and despite being nowhere as much fun as Yellowstone, my critical instincts say Marshals will have a decent ride on CBS anyway. Books. Gertrude Stein, An Afterlife, shifts focus back to her work, by Eric Peterson. Francesca Wade is the author of Gertrude Stein, An Afterlife, her acclaimed biography of the iconic 20th century author, art collector, and personality, which was also one of our picks for the best books of 2025. Wade is also the author of Square Hunting, 5 Women, Freedom in London Between the Wars, and her work has appeared in the New York Review of Books, London Review of Books, Paris Review, and Granta. Here she takes the book pages question and answer about her work and her reading life. Question: please tell readers about your new book, Gertrude Stein, An Afterlife. My book is a biography of the radical American writer, art collector, and salonist Gertrude Stein. The first half explores Stein's fascinating life, leaning on the way she told her own story in her self-mythologistic memoir. The autobiography of Alice Toklas, while the second half, following Toklas in the 20 years she lived on after Stein's death, traces Stein's efforts to secure her posthumous legacy, introducing the first biographers who came to life through the voluminous archive she left behind. Books. The Blue House I Loved, by Koa Kalia Yang. 6 titles that look a lot like home. The Blue House I Loved. Like other books on this list, the autobiographical Blue conveys that houses are impermanent, but Yang writes that the things that happen there can remain long after the walls come down, though the building that Yang's family shared with her aunt and uncle is long gone. She writes that the memory of that house kept them close to me long after our lives in America had spread us far from each other. The Yellow House by Sarah Broom. Literally, the title character of this memoir, the New Orleans house, was in trouble even before Hurricane Katrina hit it, and ultimately disaster relief crews ripped it apart. Though the Yellow House looked fine from the outside, it was decaying on the inside, to the extent that Broom and her siblings were not allowed to invite friends into it. The Brooms loved its idiosyncrasies. Anyway, her brother continued to mow the yard long after the hurricane rendered it uninhabitable. Broom uses the house as a metaphor for New Orleans, which also presents as a beautiful place, but also is rotting because of racism and poverty. Readers will undoubtedly note that though Broom escapes the house and the city for extended periods, she returns to it time and time again. House by Tracy Kidder. In House, Kidder chronicles the construction of a home. The book starts when the homeowners choose a site and work with an architect to design the house, then proceeds until move-in. They may not sound riveting, but Kidder is crazy good at keeping the focus on people. In this case, it's people trying to agree about what a project should look like and how that can be achieved. Through it all, it becomes clear that the most important players in the creation of a new structure are the people who build it, turning it into a place in which to make a life. The Round House by Louise Erdrich. Erdrich often writes about home, but we might as well go with the novel that actually has house in the title. The Round House is not a happy place. It's the site of a rape that occurred years before most of the book is set, but it provides an opportunity for reflection on houses and home, and about how differently two people can view the same place. Roman Stories by Jumba Nahari. More about the state of mind suggested by home than any specific places, Nahari writes about people who live in Rome and who are in various states of comfort there, from vacation renters who feel unwelcome because of an off-limits room to immigrants who receive constant reminders that some Italians do not want them there. The characters in these stories are all trying to figure out where home is. Here, by Richard McGuire. This graphic novel is the most unusual book on this list. Here takes place on one plot of land, but it's constantly shifting over centuries to reveal the lives of its occupants, morphing into other lives. Native people working the land, a relative of Ben Franklin disrespecting it, a modern couple trying to make a marriage work in it. It's both a book about a place, a home that several families occupy, and about the lasting imprint people and creatures make on that place. You are listening to an article in Features from the May 1st issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. Taste. Restaurant notes. Third Space brings back the old school cafe culture. Spot Coffee was just about the coolest place in the world to Chelsea May when she was a teenager growing up in Hamburg. She'd drive into Buffalo to Chippewa and Elmwood and sit with her friends in big comfy chairs eating an espresso loaf. Spot wasn't home, it wasn't school, it was something else. A third thing, where May could socialize and see the world. In 2012, shortly after she graduated high school, May posted a Facebook status about how, when she grew up, she wanted to own a cafe during the day and a bar at night. I loved, as a teenager in my young 20s, being able to go out to a place that wasn't necessarily a bar, a place where you can connect with people, May said. May remembered, I wanted to create a space like that, but forgot about it. May remembered last year. She left her insurance career and opened Third Space Cafe and Entertainment, outfitted with thrifted furniture. In August, her cafe occupies the sprawling first-floor storefront of the Sidway Building on Main Street in downtown Buffalo Theater District. May's early 2000 coffee shop inspiration shines through in the cafe's long hours, lounge seating, and a Norah Jones song playing on the speakers during a recent visit. May was also inspired by complaints she'd hear from locals about how the city lacks third places, the sociological term for social locations that exist outside of the home and workplace. Libraries, cafes, parks, community centers, bars, churches, theaters, and bookstores are all third places. A good third place is accessible and relatively informal, where people can mingle freely. I think people still do want to connect. I think it is hard in the economic environment because, you think, oh, you're going to leave your house. You have to spend $100, May said. There's a shift where people don't want to just go out and party anymore. So they're craving that in between, like, okay, I left my house, great, but I didn't have to necessarily get dressed up or spend a ton of money to stay out until 1 a.m. Victoria Carrick, Third Space's 23-year-old brand manager and assistant manager, said, the cafe's free and affordable events help attract more people from her generation and teenagers who often have fewer options of fun, affordable places to hang out. You see a lot of discussion about how there's nothing to do in Buffalo, and my response is there's something to do if you're willing to try something new, or if you just have an interest in any hobby. It's definitely a challenge to get people out. Third Space diverges from what has become the coffee culture norm in Buffalo. It welcomes the laptop and earbud crowd as much as the next cafe, but coffee is the thing, not the thing, at Third Space. In fact, like the total opposite of no loitering sign, the Third Space team is all right with people not buying anything. Of course, some people need to buy some things for them to stay in business. I'm just a girl who is sent to pay, and I'm a single mom, so I appreciate purchases. But if you don't have money that day, or if you need a safe place to work and hang out, and as long as you're respectful, we're open to that, May said. Inclusivity is their North Star. The thing at Third Space is the entertainment schedule. There is an event nearly every day of the week. Comedy open mics, May is the comedian, karaoke, music and poetry open mics, stitch circles for knitters, crocheters, and embroiderers, puzzle competitions, kids game meetups, plus lots of live music from bands, DJs, and solo musicians. Third Space serves coffee roasted by Topico on the west side, espresso drinks, and tea all day long, until the kitchen closes at 2 p.m. Third Space also serves cafe-style breakfast and lunch, such as the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. The pastries come from a local woman-owned bakery, such as croissants and cookies from the Buffalo Delights, cookies from Smart Cookie, and gluten-free baked goods from Sugarloaf Bakery. In the evening, the drink options expand to include wine and beer. Sobriety is welcome too, as May herself hasn't drank alcohol in years. No one's weird about it. When we have large events here, someone's drinking tea, someone's drinking coffee, someone's drinking a beer. We're all just coexisting, May said. We hear from people so often that it's hard to do that in Buffalo. You can't get a cup of coffee and watch a band. Third space is open from 7:30 to 3 Monday, 7:30 to 9 Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 7:30 to 3, 5 to 9 Wednesday, 8:30 to 9 Saturday. The kitchen closes at 2. Restaurant news. Downtown Buffalo's Grayland is closing at the end of the month, but its prime restaurant space shouldn't be vacant for long. Buffalo's competitive craft beer landscape is losing another brewery. Steel Leaf Brewing Company closed its Hurdle Avenue Brewery February 28th after almost a year and a half. Taste of China, the Boulevard Mall Chinese restaurant known for its free chicken samples, has closed as the mall awaits partial demolition. Food events. The Ukrainian American Civic Center on Military Road is going where no Limburger has gone before, with a Limburger lunch, also known as Limburger Palooza, at 2 p.m. today, Sunday. Pungent Limburger cheese will be in a Limburger pizza, Limburger mac and cheese, Limburger stuffed peppers, and bacon and onion soup with Limburger croutons. There will also be Bloody Marys to drink and free breath mints. Admission is $15. Pierogi Fest returns to the terrace at Delaware Park, Lincoln Parkway, from noon to 4, March 14th. Sample pierogi from participating restaurants, along with food such as the Polish pastries, soup, sausage, beer, and vodka. Captain Tom and the Hooligans will play music in the beer tent. Tickets are $35. Taste. Deliciously Deconstructed by Liv Dansky. You won't stuff any peppers for this stuffed pepper casserole, but you will enjoy the sweet and smoky combination of flavors coming from bell peppers, fire-roasted tomatoes, smoked paprika, and ground beef. You can use pre-cooked rice from the package or leftover brown rice if you have it. Stuffed pepper casserole ingredients: 2 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil, 1 pound 90% lean ground beef, 1 large red onion thinly sliced, 3 medium multicolored bell peppers, 6 cloves of garlic chopped, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 teaspoon of ground pepper, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 1 14-ounce can of no salt added fire roasted diced tomatoes, drained. Preheat oven to 400 degrees. Heat oil in a large nonstick skillet over medium heat. Add beef, cook, stirring often and using the back of a spoon to break it up until the cook through and no longer pink, about 5 minutes. Add onion, peppers, garlic, paprika, oregano, salt, and pepper. Cook, stirring often until the vegetables are tender, about 8 minutes. Increase heat to medium-high and stir in tomato paste. Cook, stirring constantly until the paste darkens in color, about 1 minute. Remove from heat. Stir in the drained tomatoes, rice, and broth. Transfer the mixture to a 9 by 13 inch baking dish. Cover with foil. Bake until the rice is tender and the flavors meld, about 20 minutes. Uncover and sprinkle evenly with cheese. Bake uncovered until the cheese is melted and beginning to bubble, about 10 minutes. Television. Cooking back in. Scrubs returns with a fresh take on medicine by Bruce Miller. If you're a fan of The Pit, you'll appreciate the reboot of Scrubs. Cut from the same cloth, they humanized the world of medicine. In the case of the latter, let you laugh with them depending on the circumstances. In the new edition of Scrubs, J.D., played by Zach Braff, returns to Sacred Heart, where one of his concierge patients is admitted. He sees the old gang and realizes the kind of medicine he practices isn't as rewarding as the kindly encounter. He's given an offer in a very heartfelt way that brings him back into the fold in a teaching position. Now he's the one training another generation. The times have changed, and internet influencers among the mix. When he tries to call her out the way Dr. Cox did, he's pulled back by an administrator, played by Vanessa Bayer, who won't allow nicknames or sexist behavior. That puts a different spin on Scrubs, and a new way for JD and Turk, played by Donald Faison, to trade barbs. Those interns have distinct personalities and mirror those in the pit, and some of the employees in St. Denis Medical. Braff, who is director of the first episode, brings back serious hallmarks, still has a sprightly approach that Faison manages to parrot. Sarah Chalk as JD's ex, Elliot, doesn't get as much screen time in the first episodes, but finds her footing eventually, making the relationship less awkward. While the sensitivity training tack is difficult to embrace, the veterans manage their way around it and get an antagonist played by Joel Kim Booster, who wants to hold the chief of medicine title. Booster is a super addition and a way to keep the two buddies in check. Stories hit on issues important to healthcare and let Braff go on flights of fancy that suggest his lot in life isn't as ideal as it may seem. While the janitor, played by Neil Flynn, is missed, and the Todd is now called a Todd, there are still moments to comfort, particularly in an arena that often can be unsettling. Scrubs doesn't have the same mileage as St. Denis, but its return provides the same peace of mind that a great doctor can offer. As soon as the interns are up to speed, it's likely this revival could take another turn and give the originals, including a softer Judy Rees, opportunity to scrub in on issues that I never considered decades ago. You have been listening to an article and features from the March 1st issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. Your reader has been Michelle. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the front section of the Sunday Times. At 2 o'clock, we have the New York Times Opinion section. And at 3 o'clock, we have the New York Times Arts and Leisure section. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which